Today we're going to be taking our very first test drive of our supercharged Silverado with the new coilover front suspension installed, which means the truck should handle better and ride a lot nicer than it did before. In addition, we also should be making more boost than we ever have before with our supercharged 4.8, thanks in part to the heavy-duty tensioner that we installed in the last upload. So just a quick progress update of where we're at. We finished up the coilover install on the driver's side in the last episode, but over on the passenger side, I hadn't done anything yet. So between filming, I got all the frame modifications done, and this side is ready to bolt together, which means all I've got to do now is bolt the coilover in place, get the truck on the ground, set the ride height, make sure the shocks are in their correct travel at ride height. We'll swap the belt out, and then we're gonna hit the road and hear some cool supercharger sounds. So the next thing that we need to do is set the shock in the right position at ride height. So basically we got to put the wheels on, put the truck on the ground, and take a couple measurements. Basically we want 60% of the available travel of this shock to be left for compression. So at ride height, it's going to be somewhere in the middle. You need about 60% left for bumping all the way up, and about 40% available for extension, when the front rises up. So I took some before measurements. We'll get the thing on the ground and then see where we're at. So one important thing to note, this process is not about setting the desired ride height of the truck. It's making sure that the shock is in its correct travel, which is kind of like it'll make your shock last a long time, or if it's in the wrong spot, it could totally mess up your shock. So if you're not happy where the ride height is, that means you need a different length shock or a different spring or some combination of the two. Alright, so I messed up and I actually set the ride height for 40% remaining compression, not 60%. So now I am like 7/8 of an inch too low because I'm dumb and I went the wrong way. So let's time lapse our way through this and raise the truck back up. If you want your leather products to last a long time, well, clearly you've got to take good care of them. And with some help from Leather Honey, it's never been simpler. Leather Honey is a family-owned company based out of Virginia, and since 1968, they've offered all natural and non-toxic solutions for all of your leather care needs, which will work with all different types and colors of leather, including red leather and yellow leather. Their high-quality ingredients will help moisturize, condition, and restore flexibility to your home upholstery, your car seats, and even your favorite jacket or pair of shoes. Our BMW is 13 years old, so to help breathe a little life back into the seats, I grabbed their leather care kit, which comes with a bottle of leather cleaner, a bottle of leather conditioner, and a lint-free cloth. Their cleaner works on leather, faux leather, vinyl, plastic, and rubber, which means it works on the seats, but of course, just about every other surface inside your car or truck. Unlike other products on the market that just sit on the surface and evaporate quickly, Leather Honey Leather Conditioner is uniquely formulated to penetrate into the leather and hydrate each individual fiber, which means just one application can last 6 months or longer. Leather Honey understands the value of quality leather and how important it is to keep it looking like new. With thousands of 5-star reviews, consumers agree and have voted Leather Honey the #1 leather care product on Amazon. So, to see all the ways that Leather Honey cleaner and conditioner can help prolong the life of your leather products, click the link in the description below this video and enter the code TOLMANSAVE20 in the little box when you check out to get 20% off your order. One of the most popular looks for a GMT 800 Chevy truck in the country, or rather certain parts of the country right now, is the squatted truck. And I'm sure you've probably seen it. It's a love it or a hate it thing, but basically you have something that's lowered in the rear and raised up in the front. And I don't know, maybe they think they're pulling a wheelie or something like that, but believe it or not, I intentionally ordered these shocks so they would raise the front end up and give me a squatted look. But don't worry guys, it's not gonna stay that way. Don't call Whistling Diesel and have him shred my truck just yet, because we already have the parts on hand to fix it. But let me just kind of explain why we ordered the shocks this way. So like I said, 2 inches higher up front, and right now, I'll show you my highly technical diagram, but we have the shocks mounted in the sweet spot of their travel. Right now we have 60% of the shock shaft left for compression, so like you go over a big bump, you've got a little bit more space to allow the shock to compress without bottoming out. And then of course we have 40% left on the extension so the shock or the vehicle can rise up. And that's just kind of like a good blend between, you probably need a little bit more on the compression side because with a heavy vehicle on top, it's going to be more likely to bottom out than top out. But when we do go to the drag strip, these all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive trucks do naturally raise the front end up as you're accelerating. So we just, 60-40 I feel like is the perfect blend between extension and compression. Now the reason why I ordered these shocks just a little bit longer than where I wanted my final ride height to be is because, well, that allows you to run just a slightly longer travel shock, which, gives us more flexibility for tuning. But like I said, don't worry, the truck is not going to stay looking like this. So the front end of our truck is exactly 2 inches high, and we are going to cure that with a set of Beltec 2-inch drop spindles. So that'll give us the best of both worlds, a little bit longer travel shock that's riding right in the middle, and the perfect ride height, or at least perfect according to me. No more squat. So these are actually used ones. These were donated to me by a local viewer, Vincent. So thank you, Vincent, for these. I picked them up last fall as soon as I bought the step-side truck. But I'm just now kind of getting around to installing them. But basically all they do is they relocate the wheel bearing a little bit higher in the knuckle than the factory one. So they're pretty much a direct bolt in. The only thing we've got to do is trim the upper, a little bit off the upper ball joint studs, just because they will now, because the CV axle is going to be higher, that'll kind of come close to the boot. So we'll trim those just a hair. I think the bottom one, we might have to do the same, but we do have 18-inch wheels, which gives us a little more clearance down below. So I took a little time and kind of scraped off some of the extra grease. Down the road, I am going to be swapping these control arms out for an aftermarket one from Wicked Fabrication. So I'm not going to worry about putting new ball joints in or cleaning these up or replacing them, because they're only going to be in there sort of temporary. So for now, we'll get these knuckles in and get our truck sitting where it belongs. Remember, anti-seize is like Frank's Red Hot. You know where to put it. So there's a little Torx opening cut into the end of the ball joint stud, which I'm using now to help tighten the nut because, you know, it doesn't just slide right on. And if I cut that little bit off that I'm supposed to, now make my life really difficult tightening up this ball joint nut. So I'm just gonna get this tight first. I did pull the CV axle out, and then once it's snug like this, then I can cut off the excess length. Just kind of make my life so much simpler. Oh yeah, don't do that either. You're supposed to use a torque wrench. Yeah, someday we'll be upgrading brakes too. I'll probably do either like I did on the last truck, just the 2005 brakes, or possibly like those 2019 and up, big massive brakes. But for now, just putting those back. From the outside, it looks like we've cured our squatting truck disease, but really the only way to tell for sure is with the tape measure. So out back here, if we go from the ground straight through the center of the wheel to the fender opening there, it's like 31 and 15/16. So round off, we'll call it 32. And up front here, if we take the same measurement, from the ground to the fender opening, looks like 31 and call it 7/8, if I'm reading that right. So we're about an 1/8 to 3/16 raked down, which is, in my opinion, just about perfect. Normally these trucks from the factory, they have about 2 inches, they're about 2 inches lower up front, which I do not like the look of, but when they're level and low, to me that's about as good as it's gonna get. Now, one more thing which we haven't addressed yet is the CV angle, but right now they are going uphill just a little bit, but that's okay because especially like when we do a launch at a drag strip, the front end of these trucks definitely want to rise up, and when it rises up, the CV angles become more flat, which is perfect. That's where they're strongest. The other thing I did real quick is I just swapped out the plain Gates belt for the RPM series belt. The good thing about these, I mentioned it a million times before, but if you do have a supercharger, run the RPM belt. They do not stretch. Just make sure that on the tensioner, you're about halfway. Like I made this blue mark here. It's actually like a tick further, but that's all the way loose, all the way tight is down here, and we're right in the middle. And these heavy duty tensioners have a ton of travel compared to the stock ones. And I think I mentioned this last time, but that's an Atomic kit, just like the Coilovers. And it uses a Gates heavy duty tensioner. This part number right there, 38518. So check out Atomic if you want one of those. So now it's time to hit the road. Hopefully this thing rides a lot better than it did before, which, I mean, how couldn't it, right? But I am curious to see how it rides and handles. We got some adjustment on the shocks to play with, but the main thing that I'm interested in is to see if we're actually now gonna make more boost than we did before, which means our belt slip will have been cured. So one thing I'm not sure I mentioned throughout this whole coilover and drop spindle saga is that my final ride height right now is only about 1/2 of an inch lower than it was when I had my torsion bars adjusted. And I kind of did that on purpose. I'm really happy with the stance of the truck right now. As far as I'm concerned, it's perfect. So as long as the CV angles are happy and they don't spit themselves out, which I have had happen before in the past, not with this truck, but with Red Tide. So as long as the CV angles are happy and they don't have any problems, this is like the perfect final ride height. It's probably about as low as I would comfortably go on an all-wheel drive truck or four-wheel drive truck. Yeah, I know guys have gone lower, but I don't know, that's just kind of me. The Red Tide, I've had a lot of guys ask me about this actually, but we built that all-wheel drive truck. We took it to a rallycross course, which is, you know, not like we're jumping the truck, but there's a lot of bumps and stuff like that. Basically, we had the ride height fairly low to begin with, and then when we went over a big bump, you know, the CV angle just got so extreme that the inner three bearing joint thing actually pulled out of the cup. And then, of course, when your wheels kind of return to normal, you're trying to stab that little three bearing joint thing back into the CV cup, and it just obviously isn't going to line up anymore, and that's what causes the damage to the CV joint. So anyway, I'm not going rally crossing with this. Maybe, I don't know, it might be fun, but that's what happened with that truck. So yeah, CV angles, you do kind of want to be careful about where you are, especially on an all-wheel drive vehicle. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of the ride height thing explained. In terms of the ride quality so far, I've just kind of driven it down this main stretch of road, and so far it seems to be a little bit smoother than it was before. Previously I had 180,000 mile blown shocks on here, and it rode okay, but it's definitely a little bit smoother so far, although I haven't played with the valving on the shock. Right now I am at 2 clicks on compression and 4 clicks on rebound from 0. So we probably can dial that in further with a little bit of experimentation. I have no idea what's going to do what, but basically we want a smooth ride, but also, like when we do a launch at a dragster, we want the front to be allowed to rise up not too quickly and kind of jar and, you know, top out, but we want it to slowly rise up and kind of let the weight transfer do its thing. So anyway, yeah, that's where we're at with shocks. I am driving now to the gas station to get some more E85 because we are doing our call-out race. I think we're filming it later this week. So we'll put some E85 in it, and then on the way back we'll do a little run and see how our boost gauge is doing. Alright guys, right now the price of E85, $4.96, which definitely ain't cheap, but I guess it beats paying for race fuel. So here we go, fuel her up. So we're all fueled up with E85. Weirdly enough, that pump shuts off at $75, so we didn't even get a full tank, but we got close enough where most of the fuel in here is now E85. We got a good ethanol percentage. And the very last question that we have to answer, I kind of already cheated. I did a couple of pulls easily. And that's how much boost are we making? Because I went into this whole belt tensioner project with the assumption that I was getting belt slip and that a different tensioner would fix it. Well, we have a new belt, we have a new tensioner. Everything should be set up in ideal of a situation as it can be. And we're making about the same exact boost level that we are before. Right a tick under 15 PSI on the gauge. Now, I might be crazy, but when I first put the 245 upper on, I swear that I went out, like the very first pull, I saw like 17 pounds boost. But I've never been able to replicate that again. The second thing that I wanted to mention is I did a little bit of looking online, and they say that if you read a data log from a positive displacement blower, like an LSA, that's having belt slip, the boost curve will kind of be really jaggedy. Like when it comes into boost, it's just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, like very, you know, short increments together. You can watch the boost gauge, it's just going to be up and down. Where the boost gauge is rock steady on this thing. So I just might be completely crazy. I do see a little bit of dust, you know, like belt dust right around some of the pulleys, so I thought it was slipping. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm trying to say, is I don't know what's going on right now. I think I need to look into it a little bit more. There's a chance that I actually might be having a boost leak somewhere, like maybe the gaskets for the supercharger. I don't know. It's a head scratcher for sure, which I hate when I can't figure something out. But anyway, truck's running great. It rides smooth. I did notice on the highway here where we're driving, a lot of these like concrete roads that we have around here, normally the truck bounces like crazy, where it seems to have not firmed it up, but smoothed it up over some of those transitions. So, in my opinion, money well spent on the coilover conversion. We lost a bunch of weight, we get a smoother ride, and we have tunability, which I think in a performance application, the tunability with a double adjustable shock is paramount. So anyway, that'll bring this video to an end. I will do a poll once I get, so you guys can kind of hear it, because everybody loves their Supercharger. But other than that, that will bring this video to a close. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Help this channel grow. We're still trying to reach 100,000 subs. We haven't got there yet, but we're gonna this year. So, thank you guys. Catch you again soon. Nothing like an all-wheel drive burnout, guys. It's pretty cool.